The Civil War never ended. We are in a Civil War loop. There have been cyclical resets, each one leaving behind a remnant. And there were greater populations of people than now if you look at Meltology. There has been constant civil war on this landmass. Each reset brought about displacement and exile. Much of the last Civil War was fought with foreigners. The Aboriginals sided with the South. Indian wars like the Seminole War were part of the overall Civil War. The last Civil War wasn't about so-called slavery. There were so-called free blacks in the South. And many of the Union states were still slave states. White is a status, not a race. You can be any color and have the status of white. White is even a status in the Bible, not a color. Except here. The census is flawed. The head of the house determined the status of everybody else that lived in the house. Enslaved people were prisoners of war. Look at King Philip's War. This is the formula. So-called slaves weren't even named until 1870. This is part of the paper genocide. It wiped out the true Aboriginal identity. It lumped people into categories that don't describe them. Look at the Racial Integrity Act. The records are literally edited. Natives were called Negro, then Black, then African American. Misnomer. Negro doesn't even really mean black. It means river of rivers. Maybe it means this. It wasn't just Virginia. Look, up and down the East Coast. South Carolina, Jersey, erasure. Look, see? Look. Semantic genocide. Black means blank or void. The media pushed the fake Indian appearance. And the status was for sale, $5 pretendians. The Siberians came later. These are not the Aboriginals. These are Canaanites. 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 These Hittite Canaanites and all the other invaders worked together to steal the Aboriginals' identity, and thus the land, the birthright. See? The same things were done in the trans-Saharan slave trade. The original Asians and Indians got ran into Africa. Their fathers were killed, and then the mothers and the children were sold into slavery. Look, these are the original Asians and Middle Easterners. The awakening of the people of the world stems from the American Aboriginals' awakening. As the Aboriginals wake up, there will be more segregation like prison. All the chimeric Mexicans won't let the false identity and false history go. Many of them are Filipino. Look, mixed with the Sephardim, as well as Edom. You see the hairy arms? That's Esau. Some are mixed with Aboriginal though. They flooded the history, especially California, which is the real promised land. See? Look, 50 million people will divorce from the country in the near future. And everybody that loves them, and some that don't love them, will side with them. And we'll be right back in the 1860s. Parasites can't completely kill their host, they depend on them. But the host is constantly reduced to a remnant, so they can regenerate and be reinfected, perpetuating the parasite loop. If the Aboriginals were unified, they would have never gotten overrun. Unification is the nature of melanin. Going against your nature attracts parasites. Colonization was an automatic response, an autocorrect from the grid. Autonomous zones will pop up, and they will be mostly racially divided. So communication is likely to break down. So people will need knowledge of self and know-how to endure. Or we stay in a closed loop, infinitely looping.